We made this.
Welcome to the Starlight Ballroom. Hey!
Hello and welcome to Shipwrecked and Comatose, the podcast about Red Dwarf here on the We Made This Podcast network. And we are being a bit crazy. This is our third of 7 daily podcasts covering the first 7 issues of the Red Dwarf Smegazine. And I mean, I'm pleased with myself, but I don't know about you two. How about you, Colin?
What, are we pleased with you or ourselves?
Well, with ourselves for doing this.
That's all right, isn't it?
Hello, Carl. How are you feeling?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. I'm enjoying this. It's a one a day, going through all the all the editions. It's been interesting looking back at it, definitely.
It's definitely a gimmick, and I don't know when we're going to do it again, because, you know, it's a time-consuming gimmick. But yeah, we're talking about issue 3. Should we get on with it?
All right.
May as well.
So, Smegazine issue 3. It is the first time it was called the Smegazine, after the first 2 being called the Red Dwarf Magazine. And it's dated May 1992, which means it came out in April 1992. Is that right, Colin?
Yeah, it was released in April, but it says May, as magazines do.
I'm never going to get my head around that, and it annoys me. The front cover has more really, really awesome art, and it's got the boys from the Dwarf in the drive room. The advert on the front is for Holly, as you've never seen her before, and fuck me, there's a free badge.
Yep. And the brilliant warning message. Warning, if badges removed from cover, there will be a potentially lethal emission of cadmium-2. Which I remember absolutely from the time.
I remember the warning. I don't remember the badge. I'm trying to remember what the badge was.
Smeghead.
Was it? Oh,
it was. I think it was the Red Dwarf logo, but said Smeghead.
Simple but effective.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sad that you don't still have the badge, Colin, because we could put a picture of you with it on our socials, but as you don't have it, we can't do that.
I used to have hundreds of badges, and they all got chucked out, and then I got a load more later on that haven't been chucked out, but that's not.
I've always thought that Red Dwarf kind of missed a trick with merchandise, in that there's never been a sort of really thorough kind of sort of like decent amount of it. There's like the odd T-shirt here and there that you used to see the advert for. We'll see the advert for one in one of these, but same way, you know, you can buy like Doctor Who key rings and things in that nature. Red Dwarf kind of gets overlooked for that, I think.
Yeah. Action figures, that'd be ace.
They do some weird-ass action figures. You'd think that there'd be a market for Red Dwarf action figures.
I think there may have been at the time. I think if there was the kind of merchandise collector culture that there is now, back when it was at its height of popularity, then there would have been. But I don't think that you'd got, you know, adults buying, you know, toys and stuff like that so much in the late 80s, early 90s. It's us lot that have grown up doing that have kept doing it because we've never properly grown up.
That does sound fair.
Yeah, I think a telling sign that they've never really had their merchandising together is I've just had a look and there's no Red Dwarf Funko Pops, and there are literally Funko Pops of everything.
Yes.
So the fact that the Red Dwarf isn't in there when, like, there's probably Funko Pops of us out there somewhere, I think is quite telling. I can see somebody's made some, just looking here, there's some custom-made ones, and they do look fantastic, and I'll share it to you guys later. But as far as official ones go, no official ones at all.
That's bonkers. I thought literally every franchise in all of ever had got Funko Pops.
Right. It's a shame. And I think, obviously, it did take a long time off in between the series, but if they did do a lot of merchandising, that would... It's kind of a testament to the program that there wasn't that much in the gap that kind of kept it going. It was more just the fan base that kept it going rather than anything else, and then the DVD releases. But there wasn't a lot of external kind of stuff there to keep the memory of it going at all.
No.
Yeah.
But then was there as much, in that sort of time period, was there as much Doctor Who stuff?
There was definitely figures. I had them.
Even when it was off air?
Yeah.
Okay.
They kind of focused on DVDs a lot, and I think because of it, it did all right in America as well, because it was on like PBS or something.
Yeah.
I think they had a bigger fan base keeping it alive, and it had a longer history for people to go, well, where's my Doctor Who? Whereas Red Dwarf, I mean, if you think about it, Red Dwarf, debuted in 1982, and it was off air by 1995, I want to say. So it was...
It was only 7, wasn't it, the first one?
Yeah, it was 87,
87. I was right. So it might not have even been on 10 years by the time it went off air.
No, it wasn't quite. It was... Oh, no, actually, Series 7 may have been.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
Look at us being the experts in Red Dwarf.
Yeah, look at me just reading the magazine for these, so I haven't thought about things like...
Yeah, should we talk about the magazine? Because we're starting to look like amateurs. Wait.
We are.
Anyway, so obviously we start with a comic strip because that is what we do, and it concludes the adaptation of The End. And as we've mentioned before, there's some really nice stuff like the grey rimmer and the thought bubbles of things like Kachansky actually in the white dress rather than just Craig Charles talking about it. And yeah, I think for me, this is the best one so far because it's got comfortable with how it's adapting the TV show, I think.
Yeah, I like, so we're talking about some of the details in it, like the grey rimmer. Some of the details I like is they've kind of made the ship look a bit scuzzier. Yeah. Like in the bits where the cat arrives, it almost looks like it's made of like dry stone walling. Everything looks a bit muddy. And there's a bit I quite like in it that Rimmer finds Lister later, so he's not brought in specifically straight away. And Lister's in the World's End Bar and Grill, which is something I really wish we'd seen in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they play with it a little bit. The cat's got claws, and there's a gag related to Rimmer being grey, which might have actually been written originally for the show when they thought he was going to be, but obviously they had to cut when it was cut because of budgetary reasons. So I really liked this. I thought this was the best one so far for sure.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I realised through reading through these that, I can't remember if we said this in the previous episodes, but Series 1 hadn't been repeated in ages. This and the videos hadn't come out yet. So this would have been the first time that I would have known the story from this. 30-odd years later, it's a bit underwhelming because I know it so well. But you have to think of how it was at the time. It has had a lot more purpose than it seems. It seems a bit pointless these days, but it's not.
No, the only kind of thing I kind of agreed in that it's a story we know so well now that it did feel a little bit underwhelming. But some of the things like the shots of, the image of Rimmer trying to karate chop the cat, and things like that, just kind of add that little bit extra to it. It felt like it wrapped up really quickly. Like all of a sudden, it was like we've only got a page left. I don't know why. It just, to me, anyway, I was reading it. Sort of, it's explaining things. Like, right, we've got to go. Slime's coming home. Advert for Batman and Superman.
It's less pages than some of the earlier ones, I think. It's only, I think it's 15 pages, whereas I'm sure some of the other ones were 20. So yeah, that might be why.
Okay. Next up is an ad for Batman and Superman later on in the issue is an ad for Judge Dredd and the Red Dwarf mail order t-shirts that we were talking about briefly before. And I'm still pig sick that they were £8 with £1 P&P.
There's an advert. I don't think it's this issue. It's one of the other ones that we've been reading, where it talks about they bring out the annual subscription to the magazine, and it's £15.
Yeah,
for the year. I was like, wow. I wouldn't be able to get a pamphlet through my door once a month now for £15.
Well, it's what £1.50 an issue.
Yeah,
is what it is if you were buying it there and then. So if there's 12 issues, that's saving you £3.
Yeah, definitely.
Maths.
I haven't done my maths with the what the value of stuff is, like I did on the last one.
I have, but not on this bit.
Yeah,
I'll have in an article in a bit.
Right. So next up, Holly Calling is a kind of a Holly Distress Call comic, which has got a Norman appearance, which I was really pleased about.
Yes,
and it's kind of a satire or a homage to Voyage dans la Lune.
Well, it's got the moon in it, hasn't it? Yeah,
I'm all for that, and it's got a Kevin Keegan gag. Of course, it has.
I really like the artwork that they've done on that. It's like sort of photocopied and then coloured. Carl probably knows the actual art style that's referring to, being a designy type person, but I don't know what it is, but it looks cool.
I don't off the top of my head, to be honest. But I wasn't a massive fan of this, just purely because one of my only real gripes with this magazine is to say that, like we said, it's only 15 pages or so, or whatever we said it was. It's there's a lot of filler, and this just felt like more filler.
No, that was the comic strip was 15 pages. The whole thing's 40.
Oh, right, so the whole thing's 40. But obviously you've got the next page is a random poster of Holly, and this it didn't grab me at all. This, it just felt like they were desperately trying to fill a page, which they probably were.
I quite liked it. It was odd. I think that's probably why I quite liked it. And I've always liked the Voyage dans la Lune. I think it's a lovely piece of history that, it's a rare thing that and you can watch it on YouTube. And I think maybe it was probably just that image that made me happy.
It's totally ripped off from the Smashing Pumpkins Tonight video, though.
Yeah.
That came out in 1995.
With the guy who does SpongeBob SquarePants in it.
Yeah.
Next up is your first pin-up, and it is Virtuous Holly. And later on, you got Hollow Ship Rimmer. And, as pin-ups go, you've only got one woman. I suppose you've got Kachansky as well. But Hollow Ship Rimmer, it's an odd choice.
I think it's the suit. I mean, it's a hell of an outfit, though, to put into a thing. Look, it's probably one of Howard Goodall's prouder moments, I think, making what essentially is like half a sofa turned into a jumpsuit.
I'm not disputing that it's a hell of a suit, but yeah.
It looks like it'd be very warm.
Yes.
It's quilted.
You say this, Mark, but if we got you one for your birthday, you wouldn't take it off.
True dat. Next up is the Hattie Hayridge interview, and she talks about the interview process and dispels the myth that she got the job automatically. She had to audition for it.
With 10 others.
Yes, and she describes herself as an actress and comedienne.
Yeah.
And there's some really fucking scary art.
Yeah, there's just one. On one of the pages, they've just got, it's a cartoon picture of Holly, and they've just stretched it and squashed it twice. So it's the same picture 3 times, but in different aspect ratios. Yeah, it's bizarre.
You get the feeling that they were supposed to have 4 separate pictures of Hattie Hayridge, but when they've gone like, where are the others? Where's the other 3? We've only got like 24 hours till this goes to print. What are we going to do?
Same picture, stretch it.
I genuinely don't think you're far from the truth with that, Carl. I think they were on. No, well, we've mentioned this before. They had a tiny little team, and they got it out every month. So good for them.
I've just noticed that actually 2 of the 3 pictures are actually identical aspect ratios as well. The 2 vertical stretch ones are both exactly the same.
I just found this interview funny and witty. She's clearly a hell of a comedian. I mean, she calls herself a comedienne. I think
that's the time, though.
Yeah, I think we just call male and female comedians these days. But she's a hell of a comedian, and she's just so charming in this interview. It's my favourite of the interviews so far, I think.
Yeah, definitely. She comes across really, really well in it. Yeah,
I think the interviews in these I keep wanting to say episodes, in these magazines have been the highlight for me. They're whoever it is that's behind the magazine is obviously familiar to the cast because they're very kind of like just sit down having a cup of tea and having a chat. But there's a lot of information in there. And I can imagine it obviously being a different time. Now I can imagine, you do 8 billion podcasts and 300 website interviews about Red Dwarf and stuff like that she may just repeat the same stuff. But at the time, this is still a lot of information that we wouldn't have been privy to at the time about what Hattie Hayridge has been up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems about right.
You've got the bit in there where they're asking her how she feels about her depiction in the comic, in the magazine as well. And she says, I'm absolutely fine with it as long as it's true to the programme and there's no gangbangs. It's like, okay, fair enough.
It's weird that these moments in this where it's like, some of the stuff you're like, well, that's aimed at kids, like the quizzes and stuff. And then in the depiction of the comic strip of the end, you've got Rimmer trying to take a woman's bra off.
Yeah.
And then you've got Hattie Hayridge saying gangbang.
There's other episodes that we're going to get to later on. There's even more stuff that I remember at the time reading and I shouldn't be reading this.
Yeah, Red Dwarf never gets it right, and that's part of its charm.
Yeah.
Next up is Kat's Fashion Tips, which has some fashion tips with tick boxes on clothing items, great, good, bad, or suicide. And obviously I loved this.
The one thing that I found sort of a bit surprising is, although it sounds, if you think about it, if it wasn't for who wears that kind of thing, yes, you could see it as more of a Cat thing. But he's put Admiral's uniform as being quite positive. I think he's put that as good. Which the main person that would choose to wear an Admiral's uniform is Rimmer. And
that's true.
Can't imagine the Cat saying that Rimmer is well dressed at any point.
Yeah.
Well spotted. I like it a bit less. I did enjoy the condescending paragraph about monkey fashion.
I was just quite annoyed that there's very few things in there that I generally would wear. But all of the things that I would wear or have worn in the past, he's put as suicide. Flared trousers and leather jackets.
Bobble hats.
Yeah.
And whenever he's like, the London Jets t-shirt, I always go, I'd love to have had a London Jets t-shirt. I have seen some online that people are making, on their own, and I am always tempted to get a London Jets t-shirt.
Yes.
That's a cool t-shirt.
I saw an amazing t-shirt the other day as a slight side tangent. Are you familiar with Jim Will Paint It?
Yes.
Love him.
Right, Jim Will Paint It has done a Starbug as Nyan Cat t-shirt.
What?
Oh,
I thought you'd like that.
What?
Mark is already ordering it.
I was going to say that's Mark's two of Mark's worlds just colliding.
Yeah.
What? It's very rare that I am speechless, but what?
I'll send you a link. It's about 20 quid, but
want.
Next week we'll find out he sold the laptop to get a t-shirt.
Next up is a review of Red Dwarf on video, which completely and utterly scuppers my memory of Red Dwarf 1 and 2 not being released until 3, 4 and 5 had been released. And So they didn't like the cover art and warned newer fans, and I'm like, "Fuck you! The cover art's great."
It's not even so much the cover art. They're really slagging off the size of the font on the spine for being too big, and they're really taking umbrage at that. And it's like, is it that important? Does it matter?
Yeah,
it's weird because when they're sort of talking about the episodes in it as well, when I first saw this, I was like, this is a 2-page advert dressed up as an article. And then I read into it, it's like, they actually knock a couple of the episodes in it as well.
Yeah.
They knock Better Than Life. And I was quite surprised. I was like, oh, that's a remarkably even review. It's when you get to the bit at the end, like, oh, the videos are $10.99 a tape.
Yes. So, Mark, you said you hadn't done any maths for this one. I have. $10.99 per tape, which works out, if you put it in the inflation calculator, as £23.28 in now money. So that works out as £7.76 per episode. And you can buy the complete season on Amazon for $2.99.
Oh, God.
So it was expensive as fuck.
I was going to say the box set of Blu-rays is £30.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, that's what it was like at that time. I remember paying £10-15 each for Doctor Who videos around this time, and that was basically my pay for a 4-hour shift at TJ Hughes. A little insight into my job as a 16-year-old there for you. And so it confirms that 3 was the first series that they released on video. And like I say, completely scuppers what I thought was the release schedule. And then they speculate about whether 1 or 4 will be released next. And I guess we'll find out later on when we look at a latest magazine which one of those did get released next.
Yes.
Next up is The Visitor's Guide to Red Dwarf, which is basically an A to Z compiled by Holly, and it gives you like some reminders of some random show gags. It references Marilyn Monroe, holograms, service robots, and other random shit. And this felt like the most fillery one of everything for me, actually, Carl, compared to the one with a Voyage dans la Lune.
It did, but I was quite amused by the fact that the first entry in the A to Z was A to Z's.
I like the fact that they've got a postcode for Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
When you get to the postcode, it's Red Dwarf Deep Space RE13DW. I'm like, perfect.
I was slightly gutted that there isn't an RE postcode because I did look it up.
Oh, you'd have thought Reading would have been RE.
That's RG, Reading is.
Uh...
I know that for putting the sat-nav in for driving to Reading Festival.
And it's always fun that, they may be grasping a little bit when X is express lifts.
Yeah. And zebras, at last count, Red Dwarf had no zebras on board whatsoever. Shame, really.
There might be some zebra milk.
No, they used that up years ago. That's why they're on the dog's milk.
Next up is the Better Than Life thing, which is kind of like an unofficial history of the Red Dwarf fan club.
Yeah.
So I thought it was going to be something related to Better Than Life, but it wasn't.
No,
but there was one thing that it's a fairly good article.
Yeah.
It's way less fillery than a lot of it, but I really like there's a bit in there where they're talking about how it all started. There was a pub in Waterloo in South London called the Wellington, where on the first Thursday of every month, sci-fi fans of all different varieties all got together, and it was a big nerd pub, which sounds ace.
Yeah.
I don't know of any, obviously I know pubs where, all the people into rock music go to, and like all the metalheads go to, and that's, there's football pubs and that kind of thing, but I've never known of a sci-fi pub.
There's one in Manchester.
Is there? That's cool.
Yeah, it's called Fab Cafe, and I love it.
Excellent. I'm glad that they exist.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Look it up on the interwebs. Fab Cafe. They also own a nightclub called Satan's Hollow, which has got a gigantic Satan over the DJ booth.
Why have I heard of Satan's Hollow?
I've also
Satan's Hollow is so greeb. It is one of the greebiest greebos. I bloody love it. Yeah, you can be 42 and dressed in an Iron Maiden shirt and you're normal. I love it. It's a great nightclub, and it's owned by the same people who own Fab Cafe, which has got a Dalek on the dance floor.
Fantastic.
So one thing about this article is it's basically promoting a service to Red Dwarf fans that is kind of competition to the Smegazine.
I think it's companion more than competition. I don't think many people are going to do only one and then go, I can't do the other one for it.
True.
I mean, it could be. We don't know at the time. Maybe this magazine wasn't selling that well, so they're like, right, let's point the fans towards something just in case we get cancelled.
Maybe.
Or they didn't want to do it anymore, and it was just like, please put us out of our misery, join the fan club, and we can stop and go home.
It kept going for a while after this. I think they were a bit safer than that.
Next up is the fun page, which has some really cool artwork, which I enjoyed, and it's still funny, still daft, and it's got Rimmer's Records and Crichton's Chores.
The art is lovely. It does seem to be a different artist from whoever's doing the comic strips, and I'd be interested to see if in future episodes, if this artist does do a comic strip, because it's an interesting art style, definitely.
I think that the art on the fun page is a lot more Beano Dandy Topper kind of thing, whereas the other ones are a lot more 2000 AD.
Almost if like there was going to be an animated series, this would have been a rough sketch of what it would look like.
Yeah. I quite like, obviously I'm a music obsessive, so I like the Rimmer's Records puzzle, where it's a list of records and you have to point out which ones are by Reggie Wilson and his Hammond organ. And it's Pop from the Precinct, 20 shopping centre hits, Hotter Than Hell, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Rockin' at the Restaurant, 20 gourmet greats, Bopping with Beethoven, Brothers in Arms, Punking Up Prokofiev, The Wall, The Mall, and A Night at the Opera.
Just wonderful.
It does leave off my favourite title he's ever come out with, which was Funking Up Wagner.
Yes, although Punking Up Prokofiev would work really well. I mean, Prokofiev's Dance of the Nights, which you'd know if you heard it, would work really, really well.
Next up is the caption competition results and a new caption competition. The winner was Jane Butterworth, who won a baseball cap and it wasn't funny. And the new one is Lister and Crichton with Talkie Toaster.
I do appreciate a good caption competition. A few podcasts I listen to will put a picture up on their Twitter and do a caption competition. It's just obviously this one is not funny. the one that's won.
I'm sorry, Jane Butterworth, if you are listening, but if you were the best one, then fucking hell, the others must have been cack.
Well, they listed a few of the other ones in the write up, and yep, the other ones were also a bit cack.
They're words that are filling up space, aren't they?
Yes. The fact that it was such a bust, and then they decided they're going to do a second one anyway. Yeah. I mean, good for persevering. Well done.
It wraps up with them saying, like, here's some of the ones that we couldn't print. Well, some of the ones we couldn't print, these are the names of those people. I hope you're suitably ashamed of yourselves. I want to read those because I get the feeling that they're probably going to be better than the ones that they could print.
Yeah. I suppose they kind of had to keep it vaguely sort of maybe family friendly, and maybe that was the best family friendly one, I suppose.
Yeah. Also, I want to point out just before this page, we skipped over it, is a full page advert for Judge Dredd, which isn't out of the ordinary for when we've been doing these Smegazine episodes, apart from two things I want to point out. One, it's 99p for the issue of Judge Dredd.
For the first 5 issues.
Yeah, for the first 5 issues, sorry. And the badge that comes with it, which says, I do it fortnightly in Judge Dredd.
Lucky Judge Dredd.
Like, well, I suppose it's, he is the law. He's got a lot on his plate.
Moving on about Judge Dredd's dong.
Well, they do it in Judge Dredd.
Oh, so let's move on, Carl. Next up is the fucking Red Dwarf fucking quiz. There's two, and one's dead hard, and one's reasonable, and the other one's dead hard. And be honest, how much did you get in the first question, which was for people who know a fair amount?
I did all right. I got pretty much all of the ones in the first one, apart from the how many stasis booths does Red Dwarf have?
See, I knew that one, but I'd forgotten the name of Ace from his friend that looks suspiciously like Holly, because I've not watched that particular episode for a while, because I'm waiting till the episode comes up. Although you lot have already listened to it, we're just recording it before then.
Yeah. So you both got 9.
Yeah.
Shame on me, I got 8. All right, how did you both do on the questions for people who spend all day glued to videos of the episodes?
Not as well, to be honest.
Me neither.
I think I got 3 in that one.
I also got 3.
Let me just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4.
So we all did okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be too ashamed of those results. If people are listening along with us and looking at these magazines, tell us how well you did on the quizzes as well.
They'll all just say 10.
Well, if they say 10, we won't believe them.
The one that got me was two that got me. There was who was Don Donatella. So I don't remember that name being mentioned whatsoever.
I don't remember the name, but then when they say a zero gravity, I'm giving the answers away for the people listening. When they say a zero-G football player whose position was roof attack, I remember that phrase.
Yeah, I remember.
So I'm
that
wondering
phrase.
if it was a different name.
It was Jim Bexley Speed. He was roof attack.
You're right.
Yeah. But that was a weird one. And the Dubois brothers, which were the people who made Rimmer's toy soldiers, that must be written on a box somewhere. I kind of remember him saying it, but it could just be my mind making it up. And I'll never forget, Ramesses Niblick III, Kaplunk, whoops, where's my thribble?
That could have, for me, that one could have been in section 1.
Yeah, definitely. I did find it I didn't know that Marooned was originally called Men of Honor. It's quite interesting to hear what some of these episodes were called in pre-production or whatever, because I just find it quite interesting.
Yes.
Next up, I don't think we're going to have much to say on this because we haven't the last 2 times. It's the episode guide for Series 1. It's perfectly fine. It's the same format, and it was dull and didn't tell you anything new. Unless I'm being unfair. I don't feel like I am.
No, it's still just in a completely strange order. I wonder if they'll explain why that is later.
Yeah.
Next up is the holograms, which is actually a letter page rather than last month, which was a bit silly. And it's kind of like, it's your classic 80s, 90s letter page full of sycophancy and questions that you would now ask the internet.
Yeah.
They must have been so relieved when stuff started coming in.
Yes.
Like you say, there's some of these are like, oh, all right, when you read some of them, but they must be like, oh, because it's 2 pages.
Yeah.
So they must have been like, oh, thank God, somebody sent in some stuff.
And also, there's one of the letters there, which is the person who was recently watching backwards in the editing suite at college and purely by accident, well, sort of, happened to play the tape backwards and has written down what the announcer, what Arthur Smith says backwards, which at that point, the Smeg-Ups video hadn't come out yet. So that wasn't widely known.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. That's a cool bit of information that 99.9% of the fans wouldn't know. So that's cool. And then you've got somebody complaining that the Holly's Fun page and Amazing Facts in the previous episodes were crap, but then can't spell anonymous.
They can fuck right off because they're the best bits.
Yep.
I take umbrage. What did you like? Did you like the episode guides, Bellend?
Yeah.
Yeah, and somebody asking for a full frontal nude of Crichton.
So with or without the groinal attachment.
I mean, there is. I think I can't remember what episode it is. It's series 3. There's a deleted scene where you see Crichton topless, and his suit is basically underneath. He's basically the same but skin coloured, and it looks so weird.
Yeah, I think I've seen that.
Yeah,
yeah. Then there's the next issue, which says the comic is Future Echoes. There's another episode guide, yay. More holograms, a Danny John Jules interview, and a wacky cover.
I actually missed this bit when I was first going through. I read the holograms and then went straight to where was it? To the picture room. Went, oh, it's nothing with what's happening next issue. And then I had to stop and look because there's not a lot. There's not a lot going on in it. No. It's just like a clip art picture of a planet with a sign stuck in it.
We are being unfair. We could make this now.
Yeah.
Even I could probably make it with my vague publisher skills, but I don't feel like it was particularly shite for its time.
Oh, not at all.
I loved it at the time. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're just like you say, we've been it's spoilt now with how design is, and the fact you said publishers sent me on a tangent in my brain there, like Microsoft publisher, word art. It's interesting because as we've been going through this, we've seen. I mean, when we go back to that first issue that we read, it was so plain. Yeah, and as we're going on, we're seeing more and more. Either the people behind it are getting better, which I think is probably the case because it's pretty much the same crew all the way through.
Yeah,
or Fleetway have put a bit more behind them and gone, look, we've got more software, or more software is becoming available as they're going. And, just little things like a couple of the pages are a full colour page rather than just black text on white background.
Yeah. It definitely, it seems like they are learning and improving the art side of things as they go along, if not necessarily the ideas.
Yeah, and you kind of get the feeling that it may not be their speciality, but they're getting better as it goes, as we all do when we get a fresh piece of software. I'm currently trying to teach myself. I don't know if you've heard this. I'm currently trying to teach myself GIMP.
Yes, I use GIMP. It's an excellent.
You said GIMP.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah, because I've used Photoshop for a long time, but obviously with Adobe getting more and more expensive and things like that, GIMP is the open source.
I've used GIMP in the past as well.
Yeah.
Tra-la-la-la-la. I actually have.
Was that in Satan's Hollow?
No, but it might have been in another bar in Manchester.
Oh, God. But yeah,
I actually have. I can't believe I admitted that on air.
But yeah, just things like that, and you see in this now that people are the guys and girls behind this are getting better and better with the whole design thing.
Yes,
I'm sorry, I'm still laughing at GIMP.
Yeah.
That's a good place to stop.
I'm professional. Right, so yeah, the favourite shit and least favourite shit. Colin.
I think my favourite bit is probably the Hattie Hayridge interview, because she's just lovely. She just seems like a really nice person.
And least favourite?
It's going to have to be the episode guide again, because it's just completely fucking pointless.
Yeah. Carl, how about you? Favourite and least favourite?
It's a 2 for each on those. I love the Hattie Hayridge interview. I've said this in other episodes, I kind of feel she gets overlooked a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially with sort of Norman Lovett being such a fan favourite. And I think it's good to see her getting a bit, even though this was back in the day, good to see her getting a bit more of an in-depth chat. And it nearly got beaten by the 2-page knock for Red Dwarf 2 on video, but it's the episode guide again for me.
So, honourable mention to the Hattie Hayridge interview. It's the best interview so far, but it's at the front page. I love it. I always howl at the front page. And 3 for 3 on the episode guide. I genuinely feel like even at the time, these were fucking pointless.
Yeah. On the plus side, there's only 5 series, so unless they repeat them, we won't have to talk about them all week.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, the thing as well I kind of don't like about it is if these are for ones that haven't come out in video yet, which is the case, it kind of gives away a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
If you've not seen them, even especially like was it Waiting for God, the Garbage Pod?
Yes.
It gives that away completely. And it's like, oh, okay, well, if you've not seen it, now you've just had it spoiled for you.
Was it spoilers weren't as much a thing back then, were they?
No.
I know they definitely weren't in the late 70s, early 80s, because I know David Prowse went round on various interview programs telling everybody that Darth Vader was Luke's father before Empire had come out.
Smooth.
It turns out I'm his father.
I do love the footage of David Prowse whenever they show him doing the lines.
Yes, with his real voice.
Yeah.
So that's it for today's episode. I don't think we need to go through all of our podcasts, do we? We'd be here for another quarter of an hour.
We're with yours, yeah.
Yeah, I'm at Mark Adams HC on Twitter. How about you two?
You can find all my stuff at allmylinks.com/Mr. Carl, and then pretty much everything I've got's there.
Show off. You can find me on Twitter at MogWifeSatan.
Right, thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. And until then...
Right, time for some high tea down Satan's Hollow. Mark, zip up my suit, will you?
Shipwrecked and Comatose, a Red Dwarf podcast, was created and produced by Mark Adams and Kurt North. You can find us on Twitter at Red Dwarf Pod, and we are part of the We Made This Podcast network, which can be found online at wemadethispod.com or on Twitter at We Made This Pod.
Hello everyone, this is Tony, Network Chief of We Made This. As you know, our podcast network brings together a brilliant assortment of talent who talk about all kinds of pop culture content, such as the episode you've just listened to. We're not going anywhere, but we'd love to keep the lights on for even longer if you're able to support our network on Patreon. For just £2 a month, you get your name in lights and the satisfaction of knowing you're helping us produce more great audio. And for £3 a month, you'll get your name in lights, but you'll also get access to an exclusive bi-monthly podcast from the We Made This talent pool on podcasting, pop culture, and, well, you tell us. We'll take your suggestions. For less than the price of a coffee per month, you can help keep We Made This going. Just head to patreon.com/We Made This. That's patreon.com/We Made This. And get the ball rolling.
Elsewhere on We Made This.
Pick a disc.
Imagine if George R.R. Martin had a mental breakdown, decided that his main mode of transport was talking to him and telling him to kill people, and he somehow managed to find a way into Game of Thrones, and he was told to kill Sansa Stark because she reminded him of an ex-girlfriend. That's technically what the plot of this album is an analogue to.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it. Yeah.
So
right in the childhood.
Normally, we take it in turns. I pick a show that you've never heard of. You pick a show that I've never heard of.
Yeah.
And we flip it, and we flip it, and we flip it. But we're doing Mad Mutant Month. This was your idea.
Yeah,
Tell everyone
because-
about Mad Mutant Month.
Well, because the vaccines turned us all into mad mutants.
Really?
No, we were looking for shows that has sort of like spanned through generations of childhood, whether that's through reboots or whether from like... We were looking for, shows that sort of like managed to span through Gen X, Millennial to Gen Z. And one of the ones that has done that through both reboots and reruns is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles.
Cerebral Jukebox.
The whole premise of the song is young, lads going off to get blown to bits for no real reason other than they were sent there by a magistrate or needed the money. It's a real stark contrast, the whole series, and this song about patriotism, duty, and the sort of horrors of it as well, that you'll probably die. Because in the Napoleonic Wars and the sort of preceding wars, these were like teenagers getting sent to countries that they'd not even read about in books because they couldn't read, to get blown to bits.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.